Okay, we're good. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good having a podcaster on because you think of the things as well.
Right.
Well, hey man, it's a major pleasure for me to connect with you face to face. I don't think we've ever met in person, but we've definitely like corresponded here and there over the years, and
Right.
even more so, we have a whole not just like set of mutual friends, but like a whole world, whole family, whole community, um, and I feel like in many ways I already know you very well from your work and just your whole your persona that I've borne witness
And
most
so, what is that
recently.
persona? I'm curious. I often think because there's so many different ways that I communicate with the Twin Peaks world. Because, like,
Mm-hmm.
I did the Red Room podcast, and I was really never funny on there. We took it pretty seriously. And then when I go on Twin Peaks Unwrapped, Ben and Brian's podcast, I act like just a jackass. I couldn't be more of a Don Rickles in
Oh,
that
funny.
sense. And then, you've got the Blue Rose, which is more of a writing side of it. And I actually have no idea what persona gets out to the world.
Well, I mean, for me, I guess I first like heard of you through my first exposure would have been through John Thorne. When
Mm,
I met him in 2017, yeah, right? Yeah, it would have been oh my God, it would have been, 3 years
right
ago.
now.
Yeah,
Mm,
right now, May 2017. Um, and I asked him, what's it gonna be? And he said, actually, I mean, you've told this story many times, but like he couldn't do it without Craig and someone he was sort of passing the mantle along to someone else, and that was when I started reading everything that you were doing. But I did not until more, maybe this year, through social media and stuff like that, through the other stuff that wasn't like during the Twin Peaks run, it was all serious. It was all critical. It was all
yeah.
focused on like, I didn't see this. You're funny. You have a whole character. I mean, the podcast, sorry, the Harold Smith Staying Playing, you were full
Right.
on.
Yes.
Ever seen you go, full on in the Twin Peaks context. But yeah, like when I would listen to the Red Room podcast during the run and after, it never occurred to me. I had no, um, you were just one of the people, one of the heads,
Right.
one of the people who was crazy
That,
about this.
wasn't that the greatest summer
Oh my
of your
God.
life?
Oh my, I love how you said it. I didn't like, because I say it all the time, and very few people, there's, a few of us who
Right.
recognize not just like, oh, this was awesome, of it changed, cliches. No. My whole life changed. Like
Right.
this podcast, actually. So, you know what? Okay, I can give this context now for the first time. This is now, this will be like, I don't know, episode 6 or something like that. And I haven't given this narrative, but I'll do it. I'll keep it as like relevant to the universe as possible. But I left, I'm trying to think. Okay. So May 2017, I left my job I was living in Los Angeles working at Apple, and I left like 6 months before that, something like that, or maybe it was a year before that. I forget, but I launched a clothing line. I spent 6 months working on a clothing line, building up to April, and it was right before this happened, right before Twin
Mhm.
Peaks came out, like a month or two, and my whole just like it wasn't just Twin Peaks. A million things happened, and I've been a Twin Peaks fan since I'm a child. I think I first saw it when I was like 10, and
Mhm.
have been really, really into it. Like I've watched it. I watch it every year. I've watched it, I don't know, 50 times.
Mhm.
But it hadn't been. The universe wasn't alive in the same way. I was too young to engage with the Wrapped in Plastic community and stuff like that. I was just a fan of the show. And so it wasn't until 2016, 2017 that like all of a sudden all these other people became available to me. And in my life, just the way that the timing happened, like I launched this thing that was the first thing that I did after my job. And I had this moment where, so what literally happened was I launched because this editor liked what I was doing. And then I was going to go into stores because this buyer liked what I was doing.
Wow.
And she closed her store right then. It was basically, that was like my litmus test, was like, I'm ready when this guy says I'm ready. Like when this guy will write an article about me, I'll launch. When this woman will put me in her stores, I'll go into stores. I don't want to go into stores until she wants me in stores, because that's like my litmus test. And I got that weeks before this. And then days later, she announced that she was closing. So I put a pause on the whole thing because I was like, I don't know what to do next. And then this came. I mean, it was weeks. And I think I got sick at the same time, and I met a girl, and my niece was born all within this month of May. And my grandfather got really sick. It was all at the same time. And Twin Peaks was happening. I had been blessed by having relationships, having friends. The head of Showtime was my first girlfriend, like from 6th grade. Her dad is the head of Showtime and had said forever, if they ever do this, they'll invite me. That was it. Like, so that's how I got the invite. Muchas gracias. And so with like my life in this really weird position, this happened. And then Clifton's Cafeteria and the Ace Theater. And like, when I had this night, it was basically like, let me just let this happen. Like, this is going to be 4 months, and I just want to take all of it. I want to receive all of it. What I saw, like standing outside the theater and talking to people all night, like it was so invigorating. I mean, that night was, I've said, is like the best night of my life. The premiere night was incredible. Meeting everyone, not just the actors, but people like yourself, like people that I could speak fluently. You know, you could speak the language, you could just reference episode numbers and scenes.
Right.
And like to normal people, like you have to like give a whole lead in and blah, blah, blah. But I could just like say it. Like when we were talking with, I won't go to, muchas gracias, adios. Like the activity, the family, the community, there's nothing like it. It was such a wonderful period. And I traveled, like I went to Snoqualmie, like I went to the Reber House, like I did everything. And I just let it take over my whole, I hosted screenings in LA on Sunday nights at Cinefamily. I would let, like starting at like 11 o'clock, they would close and then they'd let me take over and just invite people. And there's nothing like the Twin Peaks family. And,
no.
You know, so having you on here, like, I'm so happy that that's how you framed it, as like, was that not the best time of your life? Like, yes, it was it made me reframe everything that I'm doing. So like at that time in my life, just to put a bow on it, like I had this big media job, and it was like original content and the world, you know, Los Angeles, and like, I was like, no, fuck that. I just, you know, no more. I don't want to go to Snapchat. I don't want to go to Spotify. I want to do art. I want to create things that make me, I thought about this girl that I knew when we were 12 and what happened to her, and how she became something happened to her and she became my best friend. And I thought about why. I realized it was because I had in the back of my mind Laura Palmer, and I didn't know that I had that, but I had this education of how to talk to her and how to be sensitive to what had happened to her. And that was just from watching this show. And there was just nothing like that. And then getting to know people like you and listening to, you know, Red Room podcast and everything throughout was just like every week. I mean, I'd watch episodes every day and listen to the podcasts and read the posts. Like 25 years later, I would do it, you know, every single day. That was my job effectively for those 4 months. I know it was yours as well. Like just talking to people. Like I would just get on the, I've listened to you do this. Like just we get on the phone with someone and we would just talk about it for hours. Like go into one episode and we would have 6 days in between, and I would just watch them again and again and again. I've never had any experience like this. Man, sorry, I'm rambling because I haven't shared this I haven't talked about this in a while.
Well, it was a moment that we all experienced at the same time, and it was incredible and not normal television. It wasn't, and I feel bad for people who are going to consume season 3 on a binge basis. You know, I always tell people, don't binge it. Watch it once a week. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Like that's just the dumbest thing they ever heard. But I think the line that I like to say, and I've said many times, is Twin Peaks happens when you're not watching the show, when you are watching it. Because you got to think about it. It's got to sit on you. You got to wonder.
Those in-betweens. I mean, that was when, man, like walking outside after the first, whatever, I think it was first 2 hours was that night, was full on dream state, you know, and that continued. And so people are never going to you can't simulate what we got that summer with the involvement and the connectivity, because I mean, it's more than what you just said. Twin Peaks happens when you're not watching, but what we were able to do, I cannot overestimate the privilege that this experience provided with the in-between, where like we watched the episode and then we had a full week of activity inside ourselves to listen. Everything, every speculation, every idea. I said something at the top of this, like opening this podcast, like I want this to be about ideas and not about like what's going on in the world or what, like as much context as we need to get into ideas and alchemy. And Twin Peaks created it changed my entire chemistry, realizing how I could just, you know, these small things turned in, we could go hours and hours. It was so, I don't know what, is there anything similar? Have you?
No, there isn't. And that's why I say it was the most fun I ever had watching TV. Even that includes the first time. I actually did watch it the first time around. And we didn't have, it wasn't the same type of thing.
I was 6. My parents watched it, but I was like, you know, I wasn't really aware. I think for the first time, it was like the Thanksgiving marathon when I was like 10. I stayed up late and watched it. Yeah.
And watched it on Bravo, probably.
Whatever that, Bravo, whatever that would have been. I'm 35, so you know, many years ago. It was on one of those stations, I guess, Bravo. Yeah, and they played the whole thing.
And it had the Log Lady intros when you saw it. I mean, do you remember if you saw what the Log Lady?
I know that I saw the Log Lady intros. I know that I tracked them down a few years later. I don't remember if my first viewing had the Log Lady intros, but I'm positive. I remember the summer when I tracked everything down, because I saw it when I was 10. I saw it like passively when I was a child, and then I watched it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched like a chunk of the episodes when I was 10, and then I went in. There was a summer when I was like 13 or 14, and that was like what I did. That's like I just tracked down all the Twin Peaks episodes and everything that I did it by myself. There was no one else who gave a shit, you know, in my world. But my mom was like the most helpful. But and at that point, I saw the Log Lady intros and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was long before DVD. That was VHS, you know, that original, that big box set, but I could never find the entire box set. I would go to different libraries and I would literally like go to different states that the library, I'd call ahead and they'd have it. And like, it was crazy.
And wasn't that so much fun? I actually remember hunting down
Amazing.
things like that, and it was exciting. And, you know, I guess it's cool that we can get on the internet and buy anything we want, but there was something about finding it. That's what happened with me with the Fire Walk with Me poster. I was on vacation, and I remember it was some mall in Pennsylvania. I don't even know where we were, but there was a Spencer's Gifts, and in the back of the store was the Fire Walk with Me poster in cardboard. So it was a big, you know, it wasn't rolled up.
Yeah.
And this was before the movie came out. And it wasn't, you know, it's hard to explain to people that you didn't know everything. Like, I knew a Twin Peaks movie was coming, but you don't know when. There was nowhere to look for it. You found out by being at the mall and seeing something.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't
I remember,
like there was like reporters at Cannes like giving you the updates 10 minutes
Right.
later. Like that was
and then you
like,
look on your phone and, you know, it tells you it's coming August 28th or 27th, whatever it was.
yeah.
You didn't know when it was coming. You just knew it was coming. You knew there was a Twin Peaks movie. And I saw that poster, and I remember I was flabbergasted. You know, I bought it and I carried around the mall, this big Cheryl Lee everywhere I went. And we were staying in a hotel, and I remember putting it up on the mantle above the hotel bed, and just, you know, you found a Twin Peaks thing, which was insane. It was one of the
Awesome.
You know, it's the only product that was out at that point for Fire Walk
Original
with Me.
one sheet. Yeah.
And I still have it. It sits above every computer desk I've ever had since then.
Cool. That's so cool. So go back, like, tell me your, you know, so you watched it live, like 1990. Tell me about your, you know, your origin story with this.
Yeah, I have this friend who I always trust. You know, when he said you should watch something, you should listen to something, you know, all of us have that friend that, you know, that when they tell us to do something, you do it. And he said, look, there's this new show, Twin Peaks, and I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to be talking about it. So you might as well watch it so you know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
And so I watched the pilot, and it's one of those moments in life that I still remember. I remember what the couch felt like, because my life was changing in that time, because
It's so funny. I remember what the couch felt like.
Different from what other television was at the time. And I was 20 years old, so I was in college, and it was just perfect, because you want to think, you want to experience, you know. And I remember I watched it at my girlfriend's house with her parents. And the scene where the girl runs across the courtyard screaming, and Donna looks out, her dad stood up and said, "This is crap," and waved his hands at the TV and was out of the room. And, you know, to me, I was like, oh, this is sad. Like, this is different than there's a dead body and now we're going to solve it. You know, they spent so much time, and I could kind of see what it was doing. And I was just being more and more drawn in, as everyone else I was watching with was kind of like, this is horrible.
Oh, so they were not into it.
No, because I think there was a generation thing, you know, and my parents.
What about you said you were watching with a girlfriend. She wasn't into it?
She watched it, but she watched it because I was watching it, you know. And the same thing happened when I saw Fire Walk with Me. Everyone I went with was disappointed, and I just loved it. You know, I think, I don't know, it's weird, because I feel like, I haven't really considered this till now, but I feel like now everyone has to like the same things. But I think when it was on the first time, you could be friends with someone who didn't watch what you watched, and we were still friends with them.
Yeah,
now,
we
if
have
they
this
don't
sort of
like what you like, you hate them. You know what I mean? So it was different.
Media consolidation that permeates into personality consolidation. You know, we take on the Rotten Tomatoes mentality, the Netflix thumbs up or down mentality of, like, Netflix represents your entire taste with a percentage. Like, of
Right.
match point. That is you are a person, and this is how you are a 94% match to Valhalla murders or whatever. Like you
Right.
like this, you like that. And I think that, I mean, I just wrote an article that came out last night about consolidation, corporate consolidation being a threat to creative diversity, and creative diversity, of course, being where good things come from.
Well, of course. I mean, the Blue Rose is a great example of that. We're not in bookstores because nobody would carry us because we're a small company and we're not going through something big. My publishing company does have a distributor, and I tried to get them. I said, look, people would do this. They would read this. They used to read Wrapped in Plastic if you can get this in stores, but they won't, they're like, oh, we don't carry magazines, so we won't do it. And I'm like, well, look at it as a book every 3 months then. Like, what's the difference? Because it's a magazine, you don't want it. And I think that's a big part of it, because corporations they don't really want someone like me to invent something that people want that makes money.
Well, the way that I outline it in this article is I analog that to radio, where at a point there was a program director in New York City, there was a program director in Miami, in Boise, in every city. And right. There were multiple program directors in the same market for different tastes and stuff. At some point, someone said, let me buy those stations and consolidate the infrastructure so they can share overhead, share personnel. Then they realized, wait a second, hey, if everyone wants Justin Bieber, then we can consolidate program direction as well. We can consolidate everything. The most efficient business has everyone wanting the same things. So we can only we can direct all of our resources to providing that one thing. And thus, you talk about magazines and you talk about, publishing industry. It's the exact same thing. Like the most efficient version of, so like the corporate, the distributor, the major publisher, their job, their directive is not to make good literature for the world. It's to run a company and control things and make money.
No, it's 100% true.
To make books.
I was lucky enough to write a book about David Letterman and the ending of his show, because I struck up a relationship with Barbara Gaines, which gave me a lot of access. When I say relationship, I mean, friendship. That would be quite something. And so I had this great book, but I was a nobody. I had no, I didn't have a company or anything. And so we were trying to get it out into the world, and we were taking meeting after meeting, and without embarrassment, this person that I was taking a meeting with said, oh, we don't care what's inside the book. We care that you could produce 7 books a year so we can make $1 million. We're not interested in one good book. And I thought, that you're admitting that without, they weren't apologizing for it. They were just like looking at me like, so you have one great book. Why would we want people to read that?
So in a way though, it's just about understanding that position. And, for the creative individual today, we can focus on them as, we can call them the bad guy and stuff like that, or we can just recognize, I choose to recognize their position and recognize what that man that you took the interview with, what his position is. And I don't care about telling him how to do his job. I don't care about changing his directive. We have to make the adjustment, and it's unfortunate, but what's really cool is that we have the resources at our disposal. They are not, they don't come easy, but with a lot of coordination and collaboration, and repetition, we can replicate the same things. There is nothing to be, so like I had a job deciding, like I worked at Apple Music. I ran Connect. I decided what got our big social push every day, for example. I decided who got to go make a music video that Apple paid for, things like that. I decided what was on our Times Square billboard. I left that, and I know that that's still there, and I have no interest. So like I'm putting out my own music soon, and I'm not even gonna like call those people who are doing what I used to do, because I know that I'm not providing, just like what you're talking about, I'm not providing them with with what they're looking for. So I'm not gonna be, I don't care. Like, it's just the way it is. It's not the way I would want it to be, but that is the way it is. My answer to that is honestly, like, we're doing it. It's diversifying. Like, it's the fact that I can be doing this with you right now, and a few minutes later, once this loads on my Dropbox, I'm talking to my music producer in London who's finishing a track that we're working on. And then later tonight, I'm going to be editing the film that I worked at. Like, I could do all these things. What's so awesome about our world today is how many tools we have. And I think that those big box distributor people, those big publishers, like, they do this gigantic thing, but it's a really, really specific thing.
But here's the thing that I always say, I have been so blessed with experiences that are really, no matter what anyone would have told me, I would never believe. I would never believe that there would come a time when I would direct and collaborate with Lucy in a comedy skit. Okay, that's ridiculous. So of course I am blessed beyond belief.
But like, that's exactly it,
But I cannot go to the grocery store and tell the checkout girl, look, I made a really funny video with Lucy. Could I take this gallon of milk? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? I said, well, I need milk. But just so
I accomplished something, but
I
it doesn't
interviewed Cheryl Lee, so I also would like to have bologna and cheese. The problem is, you're right, we can adapt to it, but we can't really live. We can't eat. And I would say it's set up quite against making something good and living. And I don't want to be rich. It's not one of my goals, or I probably would be rich, because that would have been my goal. My goal is to create art. I mean, it's always been that, to create art and make people laugh. That's all I ever really wanted out of life. And I'm doing them both, but there are moments that I get disheartened.
Of course.
With how, that we've done quality stuff, and then you just see the schlock just roll through, and it's some days up, some days down.
I mean, my small way, this is what this show is to me, is like, I'm curating ideas is my, like, if I'm sitting at dinner, I'm curating my universe. I want the world to be talking about certain things. That's the world that I want to be experiencing. So I have an episode about music. I have an episode about tea. I have an episode about Twin Peaks, If I'm sitting at dinner with someone, like, what do I want them to bring up? What do I want? What kind of information and what kind of ideas do I want out there? And, you, Scott Ryan, you explore ideas that I think are important. And
thank you.
I want to engage with that. So for me, I mean, step one is just getting the ideas out there. And I don't know. I mean, the economics are really, really hard.
And I mean, we've been lucky with the Blue Rose. We really have. We've never really crossed over to a place where I would say we were making money. But up until the most recent issue, we've never gone upside down. COVID might.
Yeah, it's tough for everyone.
I mean, it's nobody's fault, but there were things.
You've done a lot. What are you on?
Issue 13 is out right 13, now.
Yeah. And this is like a double or 1.5 or something.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 issue because we wanted to do something special for the 30th
Awesome.
anniversary. And so we put, that costs us a little bit more, and it costs us more on shipping. But at the same time, with the shipping things, there's a lot of people in Europe who haven't got their issue or their books, and they're sitting in customs, and they're rightly upset. And I get those emails because we shipped everything out.
Seriously? People are like,
I mean, they won't. Yeah, I mean, people. I take it as a compliment.
They don't understand that, like.
Well, no, they don't. And I take it as a compliment that people expect us to offer the same level of service as Amazon and things like that, because everything happens out of my basement. You know what I mean? Like, we have no office space. We have no infrastructure. We have no bankroll. You know, it all comes.
I mean, that's another thing, like Amazon literally. So where I am, mail is not easy, but Amazon gets here Tuesdays and Thursdays. They have a dedicated like truck or something. But if I want anything else, I have to get someone to go pick it up 2 towns over.
Yeah, I mean,
Amazon's easy. Amazon comes in 2 days.
Right. But Amazon takes most of the money. I mean, like we put it up on Kindle, the issues, but you know,
take like 50% or something.
50%. Right? And you know, Amazon makes more off every single thing I do than I will ever
you're
make.
Netting. Yeah, right. You're paying the
and they're always making 50%. And that's true of my books and everything. Now, is that fair? Is that not fair? Who's to say? But it is hard to make a step forward with that.
If they're not creating scale for you, it's not they're not really contributing anything. They're just cutting into your margins.
And what I would say is that Americans like it. I mean, Americans tell me all the time they would much rather go to Amazon than me. I would
rather go to Amazon than you. The only reason why I buy it from you is because you don't have to tell me the economics. I know the economics, and I know why it's offered there as opposed to on Kindle. So I know that if I buy it on Kindle, you're probably taking a net loss on your operations. And it's also for me, it's like having the physical is cool. I have a stack of them on my bookshelf, and they're right next to wrapped in plastic, and that's special to me, you know.
It's special to me too. I mean, working with John, it was really funny. I wanted to do this magazine. It was my idea. I wanted
you have John in the 30th. Yeah.
And John, I just kept telling John, bring back Wrapped in Plastic. And he kept saying, no, that was me and Craig. I don't think it would work. Who would want to print media in 2016? I actually started begging him in 2015. When Mark Frost's Secret History came out is when I was like, that was the first new Twin Peaks thing. And I was like, there should be coverage of this. And so eventually I called John.
That was crazy when that dropped.
I know, wasn't it?
Like just for listeners that like don't, Scott is like glossing over this moment, but like, fuck, man. Like I had never experienced a topical Twin Peaks moment in my existence. The most exciting thing was, that Gum You Like is going to come back into style. Okay, Missing Pieces fan edit was pretty cool. That was all. But that was like, okay, so stuff trickled out over the years of like DVDs.
Right, but it wasn't new. I mean, it was new to us, but it wasn't new.
Right. So it was like, okay, cool. I get an extra, 60 seconds of this scene and like, whoa, that's awesome. But like, it wasn't like stop the project. It was cool. It fed the obsession. And then there was that Gum You Like going to come back in style, the tweet, which was like, obviously, holy shit. I think that was like my profile picture for a year or something like that. But the book was it, like the first substantial Twin Peaks anything in my, cognizant lifetime, period. Like I was not really, I had been watching the reruns, for my whole life. And then the book, like getting that in the mail, it's like, man, what? It was crazy. So exciting. It took me I read it so slowly.
Yeah,
Like I don't
I
know.
had to read it quickly because I knew we were gonna cover it, and I didn't want any spoilers. So I
I spent
remember.
forever reading it. I went back, I reread, I would go like in and out, and I'd do the Audible, and I'd read the book, and I took forever. I just felt like, you know, the whole process was dragging, like with Lynch coming in and out of production and stuff like that. So I just like stretched this out. I just go in and out of it. I don't know how I like resisted, but it was just, it felt so good to have that freshness, fresh Twin Peaks storytelling.
I know it
So
was very,
cool.
very exciting.
Okay,
Um,
sorry. So you back, okay, 2015, 2016, you're talking to
so
John,
when
you're
that
trying to get
came
him to
out,
do
and
Wrapped
I
in Plastic.
finally said to John, I called him one day and I said, John, I'm starting the Blue Rose magazine. Are you in or are you out? You know, you gonna help me with this? And he said, all right, I'll help. And then we got Courtney Stallings on as our editor because she's a journalist. Because I didn't know anything about doing a mag. I didn't know anything. I mean, what I knew is I love Twin Peaks, and I wish there was a magazine about it. That's what I knew.
Just for anyone listening who doesn't know, we're talking, you know, we're talking inside baseball a little bit. John Thorne founded and edited Wrapped in Plastic, which was the first. A lot of people would call it the first like TV show fanzine ever, and that ran for how long
About
did it go?
13 to 15 years in that range.
It's awesome. And like you can go on eBay, you could still get them. You could ask me. I think I have all but like a few issues.
Oh, what do you not have? Do you know if you have the Mulholland Drive one? That was the one that I was the hardest for me to get.
I have to check. I have them all. They're all sitting in, I mean, I'm in Mexico right now. I don't have, I could actually probably find out. I could go through my email and just like look at which ones I've ordered and see what I don't have. But yeah, I'm sure, I know I don't have all of them.
Mhm.
But I've tried. There's a few that are just like, you know, $400 or something.
Yeah, and the one it's got Naomi Watts and Laura. I can't think of her last name. Is it Herring?
Haring, yeah.
Haring. They're on the front
Herring,
cover, and
Haring,
that was the hardest one for me. And you know, she kissed me, by the way. I don't want to.
What?
You know, I'm just saying.
Major.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. I didn't
That's
mind.
cool. Yeah, I wouldn't. Okay, so John John, what he's talking about right now is, and we refer to Craig. Craig was John's partner on Wrapped in Plastic, and Craig unfortunately passed away. And John carried it on for a little while, and then eventually, in between, you know, just went on hiatus. When the new season was being announced, Scott and John were talking, and Scott was trying to convince John to.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought there was
Plastic.
a place to do it. And I mean, I know that it's crazy to think. And by the way, Craig passed away after the magazine ended.
After,
so he didn't, it was after. That's okay. And I knew that people would want one when the new season came. And I just thought if someone else does it, it's going to kill me because I had thought about it. I loved Wrapped in Plastic, but I also always wanted it to be a little bit more, I mean, colorful. Ours is in color, but I actually mean, you know, they were very academic and Wrapped in Plastic. And we certainly do academic articles every issue, but I really wanted it to be a little more fun. And that is what I've tried to bring to the Blue Rose is just a little bit of silliness. Every once in a while, just to laugh a little bit, because I like to laugh about Twin Peaks.
It makes sense because Wrapped in Plastic came at a different time when that did not exist. So I remember walking out of Mulholland Drive, for example, just to put into context of the year 2000, being in high school, I went to go see that film 2 days in a row at 85th and First, and all I wanted to do was talk about it. All I wanted to do was be like, what do people think this means? And I went on the internet. I went to everywhere, you know, I had friends, but like it took about a decade for me to be able to really get anyone's opinion. Like here and there you get opinions on it, but it's really difficult. At that time, there just was not that out there. So Wrapped in Plastic coming out starting in 1991 or 1990 or
92.
92, okay.
Could be 93. They pretty much started with Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, it would have been academic for a wonderful reason because what people would have wanted in 1992 is, you know, really intelligent, thought out theory on criticism on Twin Peaks. Not like you don't need to put personality into it. It's really just about like distilling the information that we're all thinking about and sharing, and someone, an expert, really doing a deep dive. By the time Blue Rose comes around, we're talking 2015, 2016, 2017. Now the internet has been out there for a long time. And now, you know, if you Google Mulholland Drive explained, like you get 75 YouTube videos. Like, so the thing that I was looking for desperately in the year 2000 is now like, it's exhausting. So Blue Rose coming for, you know, in 2017 context, of course you got to put personality into it. Of course you got to put family and community into it. You got to mix it up, the variety of the ways to look at this. There need not be a definitive, that doesn't really, that would be counterproductive.
It doesn't exist. So, I mean, that was sort of, and we've gotten better with it as we've gone along. You know, I don't look back at the issues very often. It's I think, you know, once they're done, I'm sick of them, quite frankly.
You don't watch your old movies, you just move on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, you just, well, and part of it is I don't have time, and the other part is I'll just be so angry.
You publish a lot. Just a lot, like across all of your projects, like you are churning out a lot of writing and audio and a lot.
Yeah, it's too much.
No, I didn't say it like that. I mean, I meant more of
no, for me, it's a little bit too much. Right at this exact moment, I'm
because you diversify also. So there's definitely there's very few listeners who, unless they're like fans of you specifically, but it's not like there's people who you're, you know, overwhelming with Twin Peaks content. Like you might be doing 3 things in a day, but there's very few listeners who are listening to all 3 of them. So I see it as not maybe too much content for you as a human being.
It's just now because I'm editing a book that we're trying to get out. I'm working on a book about moonlighting. You know, we want to do issue 14 in the fall. So right now we're taking a little break because honestly, with the shipping system the way it is, it's not in our best interest to be shipping something right now. So that's, you know, we're just kind of taking a break. And and a couple people have said, well, why don't you just do a Kindle version of the Blue Rose? And I know that we could, but I like to feel it. I like to see it. I like it to exist. You know, I want to make something that exists. It's not that I'm anti ebook, because I do like them, but I want it to exist. I'm old school in that way.
There's definitely something different about it. For me personally, in 2 ways, I hearken back to this Umberto Eco quote that I'll paraphrase because I don't remember exactly the quote, but he famously, you know, like he wrote about this, but had just tremendous amount of books, and the books were not just there to be read, but they were there to bring energy. And, you know, you just walk by a wall of books or a wall of vinyl, you know, and you see that stuff and it just brings you somewhere, you know, it contextualizes your day and your activity. And, you know, the second part, I'm in the middle of a book right now called House of Leaves that was it's a 750 page book that was like perfect. It's been sitting in my like top of my like to-do list for years, and I'm finally getting to it now during quarantine, and I'm 200 pages into the book maybe, and I just ordered a new copy. I have it saved as a PDF, and I've been reading the PDF, but I was just like, you know what, fuck this, like I'm really diving into this book, and for $20 I just and I got it today, and I have the tome, you know, it's like a Bible. It's big, it's thick, and man, started digging into that, and it is a different experience than sitting on my laptop or my Kindle paperweight, feeling the 750 pages. So yes, when I get your magazine and it's wrapped in plastic. By the way, Scott wraps Blue Rose in plastic when he ships. He puts a cardboard filler in the back to keep it from folding, and then literally it's cellophane wrapped in plastic every issue, which
and the reason I do that is because of Charlotte Stewart, who played Betty Briggs as well as
the
Mary
OG.
X in Eraserhead. So my first book I wrote was about the TV show 30 something, and Charlotte Stewart wrote a book, and it's with the same publishing company. That one was before I started my own company. And since we were colleagues, I used to joke with her. We worked at the same, you know, I said, well, hey, we have the same job.
Yeah, yeah.
And she said, look, do you want advice for shipping that book out? Wrap it in cellophane because it's less likely to
Wrapped
get wet.
in cellophane.
And so when I started the Blue Rose, I thought, I'm going to do that. And I am not joking. I didn't think about it being wrapped in plastic. When they started to arrive, issue 1, everyone was like, oh my God, it's wrapped in plastic. And then I was like, I didn't know. I didn't. And not one time did I think about it. I did it because Charlotte Stewart told me to do it. And I still do it when I ship out the books, when people buy books from Fayetteville Mafia Press.
What a layered anecdote.
I still wrap them because it just makes sense to give them that extra protection as they're going through, and it's cheap as could be. It doesn't cost you anything to just wrap it in cellophane.
And hey, if you're going to leave a body outside, it's good to put something around it.
Yeah. And I buy it in bulk, so I could kill one of my kids if I want to.
Oh,
that's
man.
all I'm just saying.
For anyone listening who, I don't know, there's no chance anyone doesn't understand this anecdote, but wrapped in plastic is the quote from the opening 10 minutes of Twin Peaks where the body is found. And this is not a spoiler. This is like, in the opening.
It's the first opener.
I think it's like the third line after Josie Packard or something like that. And he discovers it. He gets on the phone, calls Harry Truman, the sheriff, and wrapped in plastic. And it's just like, and that's what he says. That's how he describes the body. And that became the namesake of the magazine. And it's how you receive your Blue Rose today. And Blue Rose, you know what? You take this one. Will you explain Blue Rose?
The Blue Rose,
because I doubt most people probably missed that part.
Yeah, I mean, the Blue Rose is from Fire Walk with Me. Lil is a character who has a blue rose pinned to her red dress, and that signifies a mystery within the world of Twin Peaks. It's a Gordon Cole, which David Lynch plays, a blue rose. We wanted to call the magazine Between Two Worlds because we thought that the magazine would basically be between two worlds, the new world of Twin Peaks and the old world of Twin Peaks. And right when I was going to announce the title, I think his name is Horton Perry or something.
H. Perry Horton.
H. Perry Horton put out a book.
I know exactly what you were about to say.
Between Two Worlds. He released it the day before. And I was like, So then I was like, now what are we going to call it? And John suggested Questions in a World of Blue. And I'm like, that is way long. But I said, what about just Blue Rose? It's short. So when I was watching season 3 and the Major's head goes by, because remember, we didn't know if the Blue Rose would be picked up in season 3. We had no idea. Who knows if it's going to come back or not.
When John
first title.
Exactly. So when John first told me that you were calling it Blue Rose, I was like, oh, like that was like, because I knew the context, but like barely. It's in 2 scenes in Fire Walk with Me.
Right.
And then Kiefer Sutherland, Chris Isaac explains it to Kiefer Sutherland 5 minutes later. But they don't really like dive into it much. I think it's maybe
not very much at all.
One other time in the film, like in the FBI sequence or something. That's it. And you can infer that there's more significance to it, of course, but it's not. The light is not necessarily shined on it. When you get to season 3, though, and this is how prescient the title became, and we didn't know what. So when I was at the premiere with John, and he told me, I think he told me that night, there's no Blue Rose mention in the pilot either. So it goes. I think it's like 4 maybe or something like that. That you start to see it. Blue Rose is. You can't watch season 3 and not know what Blue Rose is. Blue Rose is the whole thing at that point.
Yeah.
It's if you know what Black Lodge is, you know what Blue Rose is. Like it's the whole thing. And so your title became great.
No, it was, and I remember the first time you hear Blue Rose in season 3, it's the Major's face going across the space.
Okay.
Yeah. And he says Blue Rose. And I threw my hands in the sky and said, yes. And I was just, I mean, I try to be in the moment, but I mean, I
Yeah.
was so happy because we could have been screwed. I mean, it could have been like
Right.
Annie Blackbird. It was not mentioned
It
at
could have just
all.
been a total
I
obscurity. Yeah.
mean, it might not have never come back, but luckily it did. And then everyone wanted to be part of the Blue Rose Task Force and
Right. Right.
things like that.
Those
And
are
they
like,
sell
now
Blue
there's
Rose
merch, there's
t-shirts.
mugs. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. There's the t-shirt with the emblem. It's the same thing. Like Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department was
Right.
forever, the mug and the shirt and the hat. And now they have Blue Rose Task Force.
Yeah.
And
And it
it's like
helps
equal on
us.
Showtime. Yeah.
Yep, it helps us very much. Although, Showtime, who I met someone from Showtime at a television event, and they knew of the Blue Rose and they were supportive, but they don't really help us. They won't retweet us. They won't assist us, but they don't hinder us. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But they do sell Blue Rose stuff, which I say helps us. So I'm all for it.
Right. It just gets the name out there in circulation. Yeah. Definitely better than nothing. Yeah.
Heck yeah. I mean, it's exciting. So let me ask you.
Yeah.
Tell me about, like, it's hard to pick your favorite, but I'll say your favorite today. What is your favorite David Lynch movie today?
Wild at Heart.
Well, I love when people say Wild at Heart.
Yeah. I say, so a few years ago, I reassessed, like, in this time period, like this, starting when, like, that summer, I sort of just like reassessed my entire everything. And part of that, I had called Chinatown my favorite film for my whole life. Since I saw it for the first time, whenever that was, it was my favorite movie. Now I think Chinatown is number 5. And I reassessed that and made my, like, dual number ones are my favorite film of all time, which is like, I call it, like, there's this, and then there's all the other films ever made, is Last Year at Marienbad, and like Alain Resnais, 1960. Like, that is just, it's like the whole text of filmmaking, and then everything else follows it. And my favorite cinematic viewing experience that is just like, you don't get, like, 70 millimeter 2001: A Space Odyssey is just above any other cinematic viewing experience. So those are my, like, movie and experience. After that, the category goes into, which is like tied for my number 2. And I'd say, if I could have made a film myself, or if there's an existing film that represents, like, my taste and my ideas and my philosophy and my flavor, it would be Mauvaise Sang by Leo Carraz, which was, I think, 1986, and David Lynch, Wild at Heart. Just every artistic, musical, there's so many flavors in there that I just love. Like, I love Blue Velvet. I love Mulholland Drive. I love all of his films, but Wild at Heart gives just, like, it's like my doctrine of living, when he points at that guy, like, I know why. And, and the way that he uses colors, the way that he uses music, the way that he uses feet, just, it's so, yeah, Wild at Heart embodies everything. Like, Twin Peaks is number 1, but, like, I put that in its own category, kind of.
Yeah, it's not in the same category.
Wild at Heart, though.
Are you a fan of True Romance?
Yeah, I love True Romance. I've seen it 100 times.
So for me, I can't watch one of those movies without watching the other. So if I'm doing a David Lynch marathon, because everyone's, every couple of years I'm like, I'm going to watch them all in a row. Well, when I get to Wild at Heart, I have to watch True Romance. And it's the same thing. If I'm doing a Tarantino watch, when I get to True Romance, I have to watch Wild at Heart. And it's not that they're the same. They're very, very different films. And I think it's just a violent love story, I guess. And I think they're very similar in release dates too. I mean,
I think True Romance was a couple years later. Yeah, I think it was like 1990 and 92 or something like that.
But I think, I mean, they're similar, but I think they might have actually been written very close to the same time.
For sure, yeah.
But Wild at Heart was my favorite Lynch movie for years and years. But recently, Lost Highway has unseated Wild at Heart. I the last time I saw Lost Highway, and part of it could have been that I saw it in a theater. It was the first time I'd ever seen it in a theater. It just really got me. And I mean, it just played perfectly. And I don't know. I mean, I will always have this feeling for Wild at Heart because I really do think it's one of the best love stories ever put on film. You just believe that their love is true. You believe it.
Well, so two things. One, regarding True Romance, in my brain, I'm associating, the phone booth in True Romance with the, and the gas station and like the road, the not the driving, the side of the road. And that's what those images that Tony Scott captured and David Lynch captured on the side of the romance on the side of the road. That is what I think those two films did as iconic as ever. The gas station sequence and the phone booth sequence. Those are, family. And that's really, I like
I'm
that.
Not just saying this because you're saying this. I have video proof that can back it up because in 1993, I made a documentary with a friend of mine called Can We Direct Your Attention? And we singled out scenes in movies. Yeah. And I picked the Wild at Heart scene on the side of the road because it's about music, because when they pull over and they get out of the car, and first of all, I love Laura Dern saying, "Sailor, you get me music on that radio this instant. I mean it."
Oh yeah.
But they're jumping around at this hard rock, heavy death metal music, and they look like idiots. But then the camera pulls down and a sunset gets between them, and Angelo's lush strings come in and they kiss, and it's basically Lynch saying, like, are you kidding me? That isn't romance. Them running and jumping to this song that they love, that's romance. So he takes that, he mixes in the trope of all romance tropes and makes this beautiful scene. And it's just, I think Lynch's, I don't know if faculties is the right word or not, but I'm going to use it. His faculties were at a peak right then. Because he's doing Wild at Heart, he's doing the pilot, and he finishes Wild at Heart, and he does episode 2 of Twin Peaks. So those 3 in a row, to me, that is the pinnacle of Lynch as a director, using everything at his ability. He's at the top of his game.
To bridge this, where you brought in Lost Highway, to me, I create kind of like that period that you just described, where you say, Wild at Heart, episode 2, that was Lynch peaking. So Blue Velvet was like storytelling. Lynch found a way to do, so he started with Eraserhead and he went like, that was like, pre-heroin Lynch. like he didn't need heroin. He was just in dream world. Then he learned how to tell a story, and there were within his flavor. Blue Velvet did a great job with that. Then he learned how to really meld style and storytelling. And Wild at Heart and Twin Peaks were the pinnacle of that, where he's trying to tell, it's still like, he's still bound to narrative. And he's using his technique and his style and his je ne sais quoi and his joie de vivre to combine these something else ideas with the these people.
I'm going to add one thing to you. He knew how to partner. So with Twin Peaks pilot, he's partnering with Mark Frost. With Wild at Heart, he's partnering with Barry Giffen. And he was a collaborator. So that's another tool that he was willing to use. I would submit that Lynch ends being a collaborator, maybe with episode 29 of Twin Peaks, but that's something he's going to shed in the late 90s.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, actually. It articulates what I was kind of getting at in a more practical way. You kind of like nailed it even more, because what I was like, he got rid of the need to, like, he sort of had these two halves where like one is telling a good story and one is expressing all these other ideas with his style. And then he just like stopped worrying about telling the story, and he just wanted to make sure he only required storytelling as much as it did not get in the way of expressing the ideas and the feeling style. And that's where Lost Highway goes, full heroin Lynch, as they say. And I think finale of season 2 was his entree into that. Firewalk with Me was still in that segue. I think finale, when he started doing the there's a short film from that I have to send you. I forget. I just found it, and it is. I mean, he's got to have seen it, because it's the ego and the id chasing each other through a peephole and stuff, and then coming through the peephole and then chasing each other in the mind's eye and stuff. I'll send it to you later. I'll find the link, but that was him doing this. Like, I don't really care what they think is happening here. I care what they're feeling here. And then Lost Highway was the peak of that. And yeah, I saw it for the first time in a theater, probably, a few years ago, like probably 2018, 2017, 2018. I love Wild at Heart because I want to, that's the balance in my work. I don't want to make fully like expressionist. Like, I want it to be grounded in narrative. I want it to be stylized. I want there to be, magical realism. I want there to be craziness. I want there to be surrealism, but I want it to be grounded in narrative. And Wild at Heart is something that I'm just like, that I would love to make that. And it's possible, because like I haven't made it yet, that I want to do that. But once I do that, then I want to go make Lost Highway. I don't know. Because Lost Highway is certainly flexing that muscle in a much stronger way. For everything that you feel on the side of the road in Wild at Heart, you feel something much more extreme in front of that house next to the car in the headlights, when they're, in the dust. And what's the song that plays?
I'm Deranged.
Song to the Siren.
About the, oh.
Is it? No, isn't it Song to the Siren? Isn't it when he finally used Song to the Siren? When they're outside toward the end, Balthazar Getty and Patricia Arquette, and she straddles him in the dirt. I don't know whatever.
I know what you're talking about. That actually is my favorite scene. I thought you were talking about the opening song of
no.
I'm Deranged.
No, it's like toward the end, before the thing blows up. When they're in the headlights on the ground outside the house. That is like my sort of, if I'm thinking along the cinematic grammar that we're talking about with Wild at Heart side of the road, True Romance side of the road, like Lost Highway, that I would compare those three of like, that's what he was that's how his vocabulary had evolved at that point in his career. And that sequence is just so out there and interpretive and visceral, more visceral than, so the way that you're getting like the love feelings from the sequence that you described, Lynch, I think, is more, that's when Lynch is truly like the Lynch that we see today in interviews, where he's just like, it's I would never tell you what it's about. It's for you to interpret. It's your dreams, and I just want you to feel things. And like, I think that sequence in Lost Highway is something that everyone watches and they just get so many feelings from.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
But he hadn't gone there yet.
It's grown on me a lot, because the first time I saw it, I was fine with Lost Highway, but I would never think I would say it's going to be my favorite Lynch film. It just didn't, And for years,
it didn't land on me either for a while.
Yeah,
I think that with episode 8 and with the entire return, it frames Lost Highway in a much better light, because now you can. I think we were given sort of a codex to understand Lost Highway a lot more.
I think that's true of Eraserhead too. Eraserhead, watching it after season 3, it's not so weird.
Yeah.
you've kind of, you get it. You see so much of what he does.
Right.
Now, do you have a Lynch film that doesn't work for you? I
Uh,
mean, I know it's sacrilege to criticize our main leader, but it's not a
no,
criticism. It
no,
just
no.
means for you. It's
I
just
have
maybe.
sitting in my quarantine things to do Inland Empire revisit, which I haven't done for a long time. And I don't know what's going to happen. So I saw it at IFC a couple times back when it did its run. And I remembered not just, I remember feeling
Yeah.
like very okay with leaving and going about the rest of my day. It did not become like when I walked out of the theater after Twin Peaks, episode 2 in 2017, it was like, wait, like I thought that was red. This, like, everything is, and when I watched Inland Empire, I was like, okay, like, you want to get dinner? Like, it didn't move me. So, I don't know. I'm going to rewatch it. I have it like saved on my computer, and I'm going to rewatch it sometime. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll do it this week. But I don't have any, apart from just like there being some cool images. Like I have that, the image of the super close up Laura Dern on TV with the pixels is a great image, and the bunnies, great image. Great surrealism. But like, okay, like it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, me
So I don't know,
neither. It's
but
not.
I
It's
haven't
not been one
revisited
that
it in a while.
I tried to watch the front half of it. We did a Men of Lynch and a Women of Lynch
Right.
issues, and I had to go through
Books.
and and check them out. So for Inland Empire, I actually didn't make it through. It wasn't that I actually didn't dislike it. It just, like you're saying, it didn't grab me. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm not
think.
watching it and I'm like, fuck this shit. No, not at all. I'm
No,
just
I
like,
mean, it's
okay.
just, yeah, it just doesn't. I think Lynch does do best when he has a constraint,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a collaborator that he listens to, and I think that is total unleashed Lynch, and
Yeah.
it needs an editor, in my
It's on
opinion.
the other side of the Tarkovsky line, as Paul Schrader would say. Paul Schrader, Transcendental Style in Film, is like my Bible for film. And he
Mhm.
makes this diagram of like tons of different filmmakers along the art spectrum. And he basically, he creates, so there's like 3 different lanes that they can go. And of like slow cinema, surveillance camera, and I forget what the other one is. But 3 different like stylistic lanes that they can go. And then he makes a circle, which is the Tarkovsky line, which is movies that you're going to watch in a movie theater, movies that you're going to watch on the wall of a museum. And Inland Empire, Lynch has thoroughly crossed the Tarkovsky line into movies that you're going to watch in a museum.
Right.
It's certainly art. There's certainly ideas and expression and feelings there, but it's just like, it's different. And yeah, I don't criticize it. I don't like dislike it. I think it's on the other side of the Tarkovsky line, and not everything on the other side of the Tarkovsky line makes me feel the same kinds of things as when you describe what you thought of Love on the side of the road.
Well, and I
where
think the other thing
Badalamenti's music
is,
coming in.
when you revisit a movie you've seen, most times, I think, if you're going to watch something like you said 50 times, the reason you go back to it is the character. That's really why you miss your friends, and that's why we want to go back to Twin Peaks. And I'm not sure there's a character in Inland Empire that I'm like, oh, I need to see that Jeremy Irons director. Like, I am missing that character.
Yeah,
You know,
and
there's
Laura
just
Dern's not
not
even Laura Dern. She's just a foil. She's just a consistent foil.
yeah. Whereas the Straight
What do you
Story,
not? Do you have a?
I mean, Inland Empire, it's funny because I almost don't count Inland Empire
Yeah, I guess
because
so.
it's not, but I should have. So, I mean, it would
It's
be
like
that.
Dune and Inland
I,
Empire are the
right. I
exceptions,
mean, I can't do Dune. I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do it. And I
Yeah.
tried so hard. I was like, I'm gonna make it to the end, and I can't. I fast forward. It's just painful to me. But I don't know if you can really count that as.
Right.
But I love the Straight Story. The Straight Story is so much. it's actually, we never did do it for the Blue Rose. I keep saying every time we're going to do an extended thing about the Straight Story, because I feel like that is his most underappreciated work, including Inland Empire, because I feel like everyone talks about how crazy it is. But I feel like Straight Story gets washed away. And the most important thing that I think we have, if you want to talk about ideas, is kindness. You know, if I've ever had a success in the world, I got it because I was kind to someone else who helped me and I helped them, and it moves you forward. And Straight Story is so much about kindness. So it speaks to my soul.
Way to think about it. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the Lynch catalog, I pretty much feel like what you would expect me to feel about all the films. Like I don't really have any surprise reactions. Yeah, I'm pretty much with the consensus on. I can go into the weeds on any of them in my own personal way, but like as far as my rankings and whatnot, like, you know, Wild at Heart's at the top, and everything else like kind of fits in. I love the things that like I had that when Mulholland Drive came out, it was like, oh my God, and I just kept going back every day. And Lost Highway, when it came out, I was like, I don't understand, you know, but this soundtrack is great. And like, oh, cool. That image of the headlights is great. It took me a decade to like come around to Lost Highway and these ideas of, you know, a psychogenic fugue. That it's just like, I didn't watch it and think of psychogenic fugue. It just didn't come to me. So if you watch Lost Highway,
come to me
and like
either.
you don't,
right.
Not at all. It took me a decade. You know, it took me a few years ago to watch it and be like, oh, okay, just take this as an emotional arc of the inside of someone's mind in crisis. And, okay, I can watch this movie now, beginning, middle, and end.
Well, and, you know, I think this is my friend Maya McBriar's theory that basically the whole movie is Bill Pullman being killed in the electric chair. And I think looking at it that way, it makes sense. This is this moment before he dies where he goes and he considers what he did and the murder he committed. I don't know if that's true or not, but I like it.
And on it would, the bookend on it was idea, I think, the way that you know, Mr. whatever, I forget what Mr. someone is dead name.
Dick Laurent.
Yeah, Dick Laurent is dead. Yeah, but like when the buzzer ringing in the beginning and then ringing again in the end would be like, okay, cool, he's finished assessing, you know, his I don't know, but we could talk all day about Lynchian dream stuff. Wait, give me, this is a part of your story that I do not know. Give me between between you watched it and you loved it, but didn't share it with other people, and you started you took over for Wrapped in Plastic. Like, what happened in between? Where in the fandom?
Well, I mean, it's actually a very precise moment. Mm-hmm. So, I lived, you know, the life you're supposed to live when you come up in the Midwest. Suburban America. I went to college, got married, had kids. I was behaving, and you know,
you talk about this on your Scott's podcast.
And I was just behaving basically. 25 years later, you know, Laura said, "I'll see you in 25 years."
25 years later, yeah.
I mean, it was the 25th anniversary of Twin Peaks. I went to the Twin Peaks Festival for the first time.
Oh wow.
And it sounds crazy to say, but the truth is it was the bravest thing I ever did. Like, it was hard for me to really come out and say, look, I still love this show. It matters to me, and I'm going to fly. I'm going to take vacation. I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm going to fly out there. I'm going to pay the money, and I'm going to go stand with strangers and tell everyone I love Twin Peaks. When I get there, I'm at the Great Northern, which is the Salish Hotel. I'm walking around the gift shop.
That's where in the opening shot of the credits, the waterfall, and there's the hotel.
Yeah,
in the
it's all there. In the gift shop.
See it on my Instagram.
Is Catherine Coulson, the log lady.
Log lady.
She's there. I mean, I couldn't believe there was the log lady. I went up to her and I said, "Could you mind if I could get a picture with you?" And even though I could get it later, this was before the fest, she says, "Of course." We get a picture. She asks me to take a picture of her because she wanted one to send to her kids. I take it on her phone. We talk. She was so nice to me. And it was the log lady, 6 weeks later, she's dead. That whole interaction that she had with me, she was majorly suffering from cancer. I didn't know. Nobody there knew. I was at work in my cubicle. I worked at a telecommunications company in a cubicle, and I find out Catherine Coulson is dead. And at this point, there is no season 3. I mean, we know they're filming it, but we don't know if she's in it. We don't know anything about season 3. This is 2 years or probably before season 3 comes out.
It's like 2015 probably.
Yeah, it should have been 2015. It was September. And I'm in this place and I'm like, well, I'm in a cubicle? I'm in a box. I have let corporate America stick me in a box like a puppy. And that started everything for me. That's when I really push, that's September. Mark Frost's book comes out in October.
So we have like a similar...
Yeah, when you were telling me about
Twin
it, I was thinking, this is so much. And I was like, this is bullshit.
I love that.
I was like, I'm going to write. I don't care if your cable is working. I don't care if your modem works. I'm going to help you get your modem fixed. I don't care. I want to write. I have ideas I want to share. And within, I think the first issue came out in February. My 30-something book came out in May. Twin Peaks premiered in May. I was at the Twin Peaks premiere that you were at.
What a night, yeah. I'm sure we met that night.
We probably did out in front of the thing and stuff. And my whole life had changed. You know what I mean? Like, and that all started me. It's all from Catherine Coulson, and it's slightly
wait a second. Oh my God. No. Oh my God. We did meet.
I think
we exchanged information. I have your business card, your blue rose. We have, wow. I don't know why I don't remember this. No, we absolutely met and had a conversation, and I'm remembering it right now. We had 2 conversations. I don't know why I blanked on this. Wow. Okay.
Well, it was a big night. You also saw all of New Twin Peaks and every celebrity ever. It's okay that you didn't think about me.
Were you standing with me when Catherine Coulson's daughter came over and we were with Grace Zabriskie and Andy?
No.
Okay. Finish what you're saying and I'll tell you that story.
Well, no, go ahead. I mean, that's basically it. Just that inspired, it was all her. And, we donated the second year of the Blue Rose to the Catherine Coulson Welcome Fund in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival.
Beautiful.
Because it matters to me. I've been interviewed by, how am I going to forget his name? I know it's Richard, but who is directing the Log Lady movie? Why can't I, the magician from Mulholland Drive? I cannot believe I interviewed him in issue 13. Richard, why can't I think of his name? This is so embarrassing. Cut this out. I'll get Richard Green. Richard Green's documentary about the Log Lady. Telling the story.
I've seen the updates, like the crowdfunding.
I don't know if I'll make the final cut for the movie, but he did talk to me about it, and I hope I'm in there because she matters to me. The Log Lady changed my entire life. She really did.
So I'm standing outside. This is, minutes later. You remember, we were all just like nobody left. We all just stood there for a long time and we're just like, I don't even know what to say. We were all just glowing together and just flip it out. It was the best scene. Oh my God. The early scene, the first part, the everyone just hanging out. And I'm like, I had corresponded with Harry Goes like on Facebook and stuff over the years, like we were Facebook friends for whatever, like similarly, you just like have a random relationship with Lucy and and a guy comes out and he's just like, Harry Goes. And I'm like, oh Jesus. Like, like the pictures I have from that night are so crazy. So we're standing outside and I'm talking to John, and man, I forget the other guy's name, but he was called the biggest Twin Peaks fan. Like
Josh Eisenstock?
Josh, yes, Josh, exactly, yes. So it's me, Josh, Monica, my friend who I brought, and Grace Zabriskie. And if you remember, there were those "Have you seen this man?" posters in the scaffolding outside.
I have a story about that when you're done.
Yes. Okay, good. So those were like, yonder, like 20 feet away. And we're standing there talking, Grace, Josh, John, Thorne, me and my friend Monica. And I make some remark. Okay, so there's like two things happen at once. I'll say the poster first. I'd say, that's your poster, to Grace Zabriskie, and she's like, what do you mean? And she had forgotten. I was like, that drawing is your sketch. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, from the episode you described to Deputy Andy. She's like, no, I don't think so. And then I was like, Harry, like, and I call Harry, goes over, and I'm with Josh, and it's like we're with the brain trust, it's like John Thorne, Josh, me, and me being like the nobody here, and the people, like, and we got that picture next to the thing, and she was, and we reminded them, we walked them all through it, and how Andy sketched from her description, from her dream of him peering over the bed. So that was just like an insane moment for me to be able to just like walk through that with those people, like the two people from the thing and Josh and John, just like, man, the way that you kicked this off with like, wasn't that the best time of your life? Like, this was the best night of my life, period. Like, I mean, I remember at the end of the night, like, whatever, I don't think she'd be mad about this, but like, my friend Monica is like the hottest lesbian like ever. She's awesome. And I've always, like, since I met her, just had a gigantic crush on her, but been completely okay being friends.
Right.
But admittedly, like, yeah, and like that night we kissed because it was just like, this is insane. Like, this was just the coolest. And I just remember like, that was the last thing I did that night. And it was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is like nothing ever, like, it was just insane. And so, okay, so we just took that picture and we're just like in our glow from like, how cool was that, And this girl walks over and she says, she like cuts through us a little bit. We're standing like, in a circle. She cuts through and she walks over to Grace and says, the words, "My mom has something to tell you." And it was her daughter. It was, and she, my log has something to tell you. My mom has something to tell you. And I will never remember the words, because it was like I didn't remember the words 15 minutes later, because it was like, my brain was overloaded. So we had just taken this picture, this like, holy shit. And then this girl comes over and it takes me a second to put two and two together as they're speaking in front of me, and they start crying. And she is delivering to Grace, Catherine's, 30-year friendship, like dying words that she specifically gave to her daughter to give to Grace on this night. And I'm just, and I'm standing there, and I'm just like one of the people standing there. It was like, oh my God. And just these kinds of, it was, like, we all started crying. It was just like, fuck, what a moment. And we became Zoe, I think her name is, and we became friends after that. I saw her the next day, like randomly. We were at the same, like, if there was a food festival thing the next day, and we all hung out. That night was so crazy. And like, and that Clifton's cafeteria, the Ace Theater, and then Clifton's cafeteria with the tree in the middle. Like, what the fuck? It was just,
well,
what a night.
We were, after the movie played and showtime was starting to tear down outside, kind of, I went and I walked as far past, because there was like a place where people were dropped off, and then there were like trees and it said Twin Peaks, and then you had the Ace Theater, but then it went a little farther and they had lined those posters of Bob, that whole area, but then they went past the Ace Theater. So I went as far as I could get away from where it was. And I just stood there and I put my hands up and I got the first staple and I got the second staple and the third staple and I got loosened them all.
Amazing.
And I pulled that poster off and rolled it up and stuck it down my pants. And I went and found my wife and I said, we have to leave now. I have Bob in my pants. And so that poster is still framed.
You have that.
In fact, if you watch the Harold Smith Stay and Play In, which is still up, it's behind me. It's framed behind me. So I
probably saw it.
Because I'm like, they're going to throw that away. Nobody cares. And if I would have asked, they would have said, oh, that's property. And I was like, I'm stealing one.
My big takeaway from that night was, I forget the actress's name, but there's an actress who is young, like she was on like some other TV show. She was super insignificant. Like we didn't know how insignificant she was at the time. So they gifted a lot of the actresses, not a lot, like 10 of them or something, logs. And I was talking to one of them. Man, I feel bad that I don't know her name now.
Was it Zoe McClain?
We could easily look this up. But
was it Zoe McClain, the girl who played Turkey Jerky?
I don't think so.
Girl?
She was. I know her first episode. Like she ended up being super late in the season, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But we were talking at the premiere, and just like I was gushing, and I was like I was speaking in the way that I'm speaking right now, just like, and she was like, not that. She was just like, this was a cool part that she played. It wasn't a big deal to her. And she was like, you know what? Like they gave me this thing, like you're going to care a lot more than I do. And she gave me her log and I have that log still. It's in my LA storage unit because I moved out of my LA apartment. So I have a log that says my log has something to tell you on it. And I took pictures. If you go on my Instagram, you could see from that night, I have pictures with Laura Dern, Bobby Briggs, with a bunch of them holding a log. And it's like, oh, it's so cool. That's my probably best, like Twin Peaks. Oh my God. Now I'm thinking of like all these other Twin Peaks stories. Like the day before my grandfather died, I wore this necklace. I wore the two hearts. Like the split heart that Laura buries. And I had it for a long time. And I had two halves that would go around my neck. And I wore both of them. And whatever, I don't need to go. It was all about duality and blah, blah, blah. And like it had significance to me to wear both of them. And I went there I went to the spot where she buries it, which is right by like, Jack Rabbit's palace, right? In that forest where they shot like 7 different scenes where they just like if you walk there, it's all like within like a 2-minute walk, but you just like position the camera and it's like a whole different place. And there's a spot where you can go where that's where Laura buried her necklace in the pilot, and I buried half of my necklace there that day. When I was there on the spot, I just thought about it. I hadn't planned it, but I was like, you know what, wait a second, I should do this. So I buried my half. And then I took the other half, and my grandfather died the next, or like 2 days later, I think. He had gotten sick right around, he had been sick, but he got like my first fly across the country hospital visit was the week of the pilot, it was right then. And then he died the week before the finale. So I was going to fly back to the Reibers invited me to watch the finale at Laura's house. And I was planning to do that, but then I came back to Los Angeles from Seattle. He died like 2 days later, and I flew home. And I land and go straight to my parents' house, and my uncle's there. He's leaving. He's gonna go prepare the body basically. And he's like, because the funeral is the next morning, and he's like, "Do you want to leave anything in the coffin? Do you want to bury anything with him?" I'm like, "What?" And I literally like, this is me like landing from the airport and I have no idea. And I'm wearing the necklace and I just took it off right there, handed it to him. So half of the necklace that I wore for years is buried at Laura's spot and half is buried in my grandfather's grave. And the arc was the first like hospital visit was the week of the pilot. And then he died a couple days before the finale. And it was this bookend. So when we're talking about these like life changes, you know, like when the finale happened, it was like, for me, it was the end of this. It was 4 months of like going inside and really letting the world wash over me. And then it was like everything ended at the same time. This whole period of my life that was like really, really crazy. More stuff with the girl I had met, and like it all in this harmonic way happened at the same time, and it all revolved around Twin Peaks. So it's so special to me.
It all.
What do you say to people to convince them to dive in? Like if you talk to regular people today.
So this is kind of funny. I don't. And I never tell anyone to watch Twin Peaks, which is really funny. I have, and it's two of my very dear friends that I've met in the last couple of years are both watched Twin Peaks this year because other people told them to watch it. And they knew I had something to do with it. And then they're like, but you know, they kind of knew about it, but they did it because of other people. And then they're telling me like, you didn't tell me anything about this. And I'm like, it's not my style. It's not really my style to put my stuff on someone else. Like I have my obsessions and I really don't care if you have them. It's sort of, I'm not someone who's like, oh, I like this, so try this. I never say, when I'm eating, I will never offer you a bite of my food. It's just not going to happen. It's just not my style. It doesn't mean I'm selfish. It's just, I don't push my stuff on you.
Yeah.
So I never tell, I always assume, I think Twin Peaks is something that it comes from your soul and it finds you at the right time. And I'm not a spiritual or person at all, really. I'm pretty practical, but I just think there's something magical.
TM?
Oh God, no. I wouldn't. It's just not, I don't need to meditate. I've never been angry and I don't have a temper. And I sort of think I'm a worker. So I just go about my business.
Fair.
You know, it's just not my style, really. I'm not against it. I don't care if you do it. I don't care if that guy does it. I'm glad it works for Lynch, but I couldn't sit there and do nothing. It's sort of not my, it's not my modus operandi.
Understood. What about, so does your daughter, is she into Twin Peaks?
No. One kid did watch it. And I think my son watched part of it. He never made it to Firewalk with me. They've seen Laura hanging on our wall. I have the homecoming picture up next to their school pictures hanging on our wall. And like I said, Laura and the Firewalk with Me thing has been on my computer their whole lives up there. And the music is played in the car as if it's the Beatles. You know what I mean? It's coming up. They just know the Twin Peaks. So
yeah,
they don't really care. You know
they
what I
have
mean?
parts of it, but it's not theirs. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
They don't care. I don't think they would be into it. And they don't really care what I do. Like, it's not a bad way. I think that's what kids are supposed to do. Like, they kind of think it's stupid that I fly all around the world for this stuff.
It's so crazy. You know, we're so lucky to have, frankly, you know, to have each other because like I had this obsession my whole life, solitary. Like every time I had a roommate, my college roommate, I got into Twin Peaks and he got obsessed to the point that we almost went to the festival like in 2000, that would have been 2003. We didn't go. I don't know why, but like we didn't, but we wanted to. I think it was probably just we're broke. Yeah. But like every girlfriend I ever had, every roommate I ever had, I turned on to Twin Peaks, and that would be like a sort of rite of passage for us to watch it together. And that's why, one of the reasons why I would rewatch it all the time, because any new important person in my life, I would say, oh, I would love to watch this with you and share. But there's something else to like having the vocabulary, and it's totally different talking to you about this than with the shorthand, you know, than just like a person who I push the thing onto. and that we had that summer, especially we have it forever, but we also had this super hyperactive summer. Like it's just, it's like the World Series, you know, it just doesn't exist. Having that kind of unification of these obsessions, being able to do it in the open and fulfill all of it. Like it was my favorite thing for 20 years before I could really have a fulfilling conversation about it. And then we got it. And we got it in the most major, sustained way. It's crazy. Like all the podcasts, I listened to all the podcasts, all of them. Like I never got bored. I loved hearing everyone talk about it. It was just the love and the passion and the connection over it.
I know it is something, and I am grateful to have a lot of wonderful friends that we talk about this stuff with, and to get to know the celebrities, and some of them are honestly my friends. I mean, Charlotte Stewart and I are friends. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so tell me go into some of that now, because you just did like the Harold Smith live stream.
Yeah, the Harold Smith. Yeah, so I don't know if it was CBS, Showtime, or Graceland, because I could never figure out who, but they asked me to take part in the Twin Peaks. We were supposed 30th.
To have the Twin Peaks 30th.
Right now. Were you going to that?
I wanted to.
It didn't happen.
As it got closer, I was like unlikely, because it just seemed like, I was 50-50, I would say.
So they asked me I would love to host some panels at there, which I was very honored to do, but they didn't really give me any direction at all. So I reached out to Sabrina Sutherland and to Cheryl Lee and asked them if we could do one-on-one interviews, because that's what I like to do most. And they were like, sure. So then I told Graceland, hey, I got these celebrities they want to do. Is that what you wanted me to do? I don't know. So that became that I was going to do the celebrity panel and stuff, which would have been an amazing, like, mind-blowing thing, that the first actual Twin Peaks, like, official fest like that, I would be getting to talk to them. Well, then, of course, once they said yes, and, that's why the virus came. It was all my fault. And so when it became that April 4th, I should have stepped out onto a stage with Twin Peaks people and interviewed Twin Peaks celebrities. Well, about 2 weeks before that date, I thought, why can't I still do it? Like, so we can't go. Like, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And so I sent Sabrina an email and I said, would you still do that interview with me? We were supposed to. Let's do it online. And she says, I love the idea. But then that to me said, oh, ask everyone. So I sent out emails to everyone I ever interviewed. And most people said yes. And all of a sudden, I had a 3-hour show, and I scheduled everyone in half-hour increments. And we did it live from my house. My daughter she was texting Lucy saying, you're up in 20 minutes. And my wife was getting questions, because, we're all quarantined. So it was all from home. Yeah. And I wanted,
you had the short film and stuff. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. And I wanted to do something. So I wanted it to be like a real show. I wanted to show kind of what I could do. So I wrote an opening of me going to the Palmer House, and I knew Mary Reber really well, and I knew she would do something for me. So I wrote this script and I sent it to her, and I said, could you have your daughter film you, and then I'll film me out of my front door, and it'll look like I'm at your house. Well, she ended up being alone. Her daughter was quarantined somewhere else. She's like, I'll get someone to come over. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to kill a member from Twin Peaks. I'm like, just voice it. So I used her picture, and I'm really proud of some of the jokes I wrote in that opening. It's all up on YouTube.
Amazing.
She's great.
I was so happy. Yeah, that was a really special thing. I spent a really beautiful afternoon with them. I think we had dinner the next day or something like that. I think I saw them twice. But they were so welcoming and knowledgeable and passionate about it, just to have those people as the ones, holding down this holy ground,
I mean, it is really, incredible.
Really, and to have them in the end is crazy.
Yeah, I mean it was wonderful. So because I was raised on Letterman, so I wanted to have like a funny beginning. And then we just did it. It ran 3 hours. We had no snafus. It's the last time I looked, it was viewed like 18,000 times. And basically we
Wow.
just celebrated Twin Peaks for free. There was no money to be made, it was all free. That was what I told all the celebrities. This is a free thing, you know.
Yeah.
No one's getting paid, no one's making anything.
It's just a nice thing.
Because yeah, I just thought let's have this 30th. I mean, that's a pretty big deal that the show's been around 30 years, and I wanted to do something. Supposedly Graceland is going to happen on Halloween, and supposedly I'm still going to be involved.
Halloween this year?
Yes, I think it'll be canceled, but
That's not going to happen.
I'm saying as of now,
awesome, yeah,
it's happening Halloween this year in Graceland. I agree. I don't think it's happening, but let's be positive right now.
Oh yeah, I hope it does. That'd be awesome.
We'll try. I mean,
Right.
it's super unlikely.
Whatever.
But and a lot of people were like, "Are you going to do it again?" And I'm like, "No, I'm never doing it again." It was actually a ridiculous amount of work.
I learned a lot. There were a ton of nuggets in there. A ton of.
There
cool
really were.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone really shared, and you get to get in bed with Sherilyn Fenn. So, I mean, if that isn't reason to.
Oh yeah, that was. She was so casual. She was just lying there.
Yeah, she's just lying in her bed telling us stories, and I'm like, if you would have told me when I was 20, eventually you're gonna see Sherilyn Fenn's bedroom, I would have said no, I don't think so. But so we're gonna cover the event in issue 14, and and get some of those nuggets that we did learn. But it was definitely the greatest thing I ever did for Twin Peaks. I mean, like I was on a high for a long time after that. Like it was incredible. I mean, Lucy,
it was really
Kimmy
fun.
Roberts, and I did a social distancing video that is, I think, absolutely hilarious.
We'll put a link for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's up on YouTube through the Blue Rose YouTube account, or you can go to the Facebook page at the Blue Rose Magazine, and it's up there. It doesn't matter where you watch it. It's 3 hours, and I mean, it is a lot of content. There's no downtime.
Yeah, it's a lot of cast members. It's very cool. Another work that I actually, is not out yet, but I wanted to spotlight that I'm really happy exists. I referenced like that friend that I had when I was really young, like 12 years old, who went through something that I realized years later I knew how to understand because of Laura Palmer. The Courtney Stallings book that you're about to publish, I'm really excited for that, and I think the topic is very important, and I wanted to just make sure that we talked about that a little bit.
Sure. It's called Laura's Ghost.
I love Courtney's writing in general.
Courtney is the reason I went to that Twin Peaks Fest in 25. When I said I went for the first time ever, I didn't know who Courtney was, but she messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm going to this. You should too." And I did. So
awesome.
All of this is Courtney's fault. Courtney has a book called Laura's Ghost, Women Speak About Twin Peaks. It's coming out October 22nd, I think. And you can get it at bluerosemag.com or FayettevilleMafiaPress.com. I've read it. It's done. We're still in design and we're still editing it, but it's what you think it's going to be. You know what that book is going to be, but I think readers are going to be in for something. This book is heavy. It is beautiful. It is what Courtney has done. It's probably 30 women who are all talking about what Laura Palmer means and why, and so much about it. I wouldn't say it's a book about sexual abuse, but there's a lot that undertone goes. You get insight from Cheryl Lee, Grace Zabriskie, Jennifer Lynch. I don't know how Courtney did it. It's beautiful, but it is not.
Very excited to read it.
It's not your average Twin Peaks book. I mean, it is. If I was going to compare it to anything, I'd compare it to Laura's Secret Diary. Like it's that kind of feel.
Because that I was going to say it seems like a parallel to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really something. We also have conversations with Mark Frost that David Bushman did, where he interviewed Mark Frost 20 times. And if you want to know what Mark Frost did with Twin Peaks versus what David Lynch, they really talk about that relationship. This isn't a theory of the relationship between Mark and David. This is it. This is all in Mark's word.
Yeah.
And
that I think you can get on Kindle.
yeah, that's
right?
out now.
Yeah. So that one, yeah, because
Yeah, that
I'm
came
just
out
thinking,
in March.
yeah. So that one you can
And
order.
it's if you're a Twin Peaks fan or a television fan, it's more about writing than anything else. Mark Frost.
Yeah, because Mark Frost is way more than just the guy who did Twin
Yeah,
Peaks.
and he shares so
I
many
love Storyville.
stories.
That's the one for me.
Yeah, and he goes through all that, how he wrote it, what, there's a chapter on that, what they did, great stories about James Spader, and
Cool.
I got to spend an evening, and I got sushi with Mark Frost on Sunset Boulevard because of this book. And
Where do you know what spot?
I don't.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I'm
It was real close to Book Soup. So whatever sushi restaurant is within walking distance of Book Soup.
Was it upstairs in a strip mall?
No.
Up one flight in the back of a strip mall?
No.
Okay. Because there's a place right near there that is,
What's the name of it?
Oh my God. Wait, what am I, how am I doing this? I'm like too focused on other things right now. It's the best. It's sushi.
It was a pretty boring name, to be honest with you.
No, it's a super boring name. It's just sushi something, but it's like $200 omakase, and it's the best. I'll just tell you.
I'm checking my email because you want to know. So this is what happens when someone asks, because
Sushi Park.
I don't think it was Sushi Park, but I wonder why this didn't. Oh, it's called Sushiaya.
Oh yeah, I know it. Okay, cool.
Sushiaya.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Sushiaya.
Yeah.
There we go. I found it. So ha ha ha.
It's cool to know like what my where Mark Frost.
He's a great guy.
Stuff like
that. Great guy. We did a comedy bit. We did a comedy video to promote the book, and I think that's up on the Blue Rose Instagram. That is so funny. Mark was hilarious. When we were done, he said, "I never felt more like Larry David than just then." So that's me funny. And Mark Frost do a little Larry David. So
nice.
But that's where you can find me. Pretty much bluerosemag.com. If
There's
you're a Twin Peaks fan, it helps.
And the Letterman book, which Scott's referenced a couple times, but that came out this year, and it's about the final years before Letterman, like a real super inside story of the inner workings of late night television. And so it's not just Twin Peaks. But
no, I do a lot more than that. I love television and I love art. Yeah. So, but I mean, Twin Peaks is where my bread and butter comes from. That's for sure. And I'm lucky.
That's how we're connected. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I feel like we could do, maybe we should do another one of these in October around Courtney's book. I would love to have her on, and
that would be great, Courtney,
because those are kinds of topics that like I don't want to do stuff where it's like light. I want it to be focused on the real meat. Like that's why like geeking out over these stories, you and I is like what I want this to be. So really going in there about like, yeah, I mean it's a story of trauma, and.
Well, in this book, it's even more than that. It is beautiful. We'll get you an advance copy. Like I said, there's so much material. We're going back and forth, Courtney, David Bushman, and I, saying, because it's hard. You gotta get that tone. This is, like I said, this isn't just a book about Twin Peaks. Like that is too small. It's.
I can't wait to
read it. You'll see. I mean, yeah, we'd love to come back. That would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love it. I enjoyed talking with you, although I believe we have met before. I think we did.
Yeah.
But, we'll count this our meeting. It's fine.
No, but we met that crazy best night ever.
Yeah.
I remember it now. I don't know why I didn't before. I was like, I think it's just
could be that you got a picture with Laura Dern that night.
It's possible.
You know what I mean? That might have been what stuck with you.
What a night. That's so crazy that like, And those cherry pies, those were so good. I had so many of them.
So, well, thank you
Hey,
so much for
thank
having
you.
me. Thanks for the discussion. It was great.
This is
And
awesome. Yeah, I
I'm
could rap about this stuff all day. I really appreciate you and all your work.
right. And I
Keeping,
just want people, I don't know, some people might be listening to this, some people might be seeing it. You have no shirt on, I have no pants on.
love it. Well, I'm gonna go swimming right now in
All
that
right.
ocean that's right behind me,
I think you
and
should.
I'll connect with you in a bit. I want to make sure I get a bunch of links to post and notes and stuff like that. Another thing that I want to start doing is I want to create like almost like a marketplace of like all the stuff that we feature, all the stuff that people make. I want to really encourage listeners to engage with, and yeah, so I would love to talk in a bit and like get something together.
Yeah, I'll send you links.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get it all to you. I know what
Cool.
you need. I know what you want.
Awesome.
Thank you
All right,
so
man.
much for this. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do. I really, I
Thank
mean
you.
it like that, not like it's a cliche, but like I really mean it. It's something that's so significant to us. And we are an us, you know, there is a group of people on this earth that really care about this thing that you personally, more than anyone else on earth, have taken the initiative on. And when I want to tap that vein, you know, that Twin Peaks vein, you provide it. You provide that heroin for me. And
You know,
I
I
appreciate that.
always, thank you. I always wanted to be a drug dealer, but
Yes.
I just didn't have the skills. So now I'm getting
You
to be the
found
drug dealer I wanted to be.
you found your medium. You know, you
Yeah,
found
I appreciate it.
Well, cool. It's great to go deep, and let's do it again for the book. Sincerely.
Definitely. I
All
like
right,
it.
man.
We'll see you next time.
Stay safe and lots of love.
All right.
Peace.